Mrs. Thomas here, reading chapter 25 of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, The Great Glass Lift. "I've never seen anything like it," cried Mr. Wonka. "The children are disappearing like rabbits. But you mustn't worry about it. They all come out in the wash." Mr. Wonka looked at the little group that stood beside him in the corridor. There were only 2 children left now, Mike TV and Charlie Bucket. And there were 3 grown-ups, Mr. and Mrs. TV and Grandpa Joe. "Shall we move on?" Mr. Wonka asked. "Oh, yes," cried Charlie and Grandpa Joe, both together. "My feet are getting very tired," said Mike TV. "I want to watch television." "If you're tired, then we'd better take the lift," said Mr. Wonka. "It's over here. Come on." In we go. He skipped across the passage to a pair of double doors. The doors slid open. The 2 children and the grown-ups went in. "Now then," cried Mr. Wonka, "which button shall we press first? Take your pick." Charlie Bucket stared around him in astonishment. This was the craziest lift he'd ever seen. There were buttons everywhere. The walls and even the ceiling were covered all over with rows and rows of small black push buttons. There must have been 1,000 of them on each wall and another 1,000 on the ceilings. And now Charlie noticed that every single button had a tiny printed label beside it telling you which room you would be taken to if you pressed it. "This isn't just an ordinary up and down lift," announced Mr. Wonka proudly. "This lift can go sideways and long ways and slant ways and any other way you can think of. It can visit any single room in the whole factory, no matter where it is. You simply press the button and zing, you're off." "Fantastic," muttered Grandpa Joe. His eyes were shining with excitement as he stared at the rows of buttons. "The whole lift is made of thick, clear glass," Mr. Wonka declared. "Walls, doors, ceiling, floor, everything is made of glass that you can see out." "But there's nothing to see," said Mike TV. "Choose a button," said Mr. Wonka. "These children may press 1 button each, so take your pick. Hurry up. In every room something delicious and wonderful is being made." Quickly, Charlie started reading some of the labels alongside the buttons. "The Rock Candy Mine, 1,000 feet deep," it said on one. "Coconut ice skating rinks," it said on another. Then "Strawberry juice water pistols, toffee apple trees for planting out in your garden, all sizes, exploding sweets for your enemies, luminous lollies for eating in bed at night, mint jujubes for the boys next door, they give him green teeth for a month, cavity-filling caramels, no more dentists, stick jaw for the talkative parents, wriggle sweets that wriggle delightfully in your tummy after swallowing, invisible chocolate bars for eating in glass, sugar-coated pencils for sucking, fizzy lemonade swimming pools, magic hand fudge, when you hold it in your hand you taste it in your mouth. Rainbow drops, suck them and you can spit in 6 different colours." Come on," cried Mr. Wonka. "We can't wait all day." "Isn't there a television room in all this lot?" asked Mike TV. "Certainly there's a television room," Mr. Wonka said, "but that's the button over there." He pointed with his finger. Everybody looked. "Television chocolate," it said on the tiny label beside the button. "Whoopee!" shouted Mike TV. "That's for me." He stuck out his thumb and pressed the button. Instantly there was a tremendous whizzing noise. The doors clanged shut and the lift leaped away as though it had been stung by a wasp, but it leapt sideways. And all the passengers, except Mr. Wonka, who was holding on to the strap from the ceiling, were flung off their feet onto the floor. Get up, cried Mr. Wonka, roaring with laughter. But as they were staggering to their feet, the lift changed direction and swerved violently round a corner. And over they went once more. "Help!" shouted Mrs. TV. "Take my hand, madam," said Mr. Wonka gallantly. "There you are. Now grab this strap." Everybody grab a strap. The journey's not over yet. Old Grandpa Joe staggered to his feet and caught hold of a strap. Little Charlie, who couldn't possibly reach as high as that, put his arms around Grandpa Joe's legs and hung on tight. The lift rushed on at the speed of a rocket. Now it was beginning to climb. It was shooting up and on a steep slanty course, as if it were climbing up a very steep hill. Then suddenly, as though it had come to the top of the hill and gone over a precipice, it dropped like a stone, and Charlie felt his tummy coming right up into his throat. And Grandpa Joe shouted, "Yippee! Here we go!" And Mike and Mrs. TV cried out, The rope has broken. We're going to crash. And